This girl isn't as simple as she seems. She came to the psychologist's office for therapy, but ended up hypnotizing the doctor instead. Yi Jingwen only stared at the rapidly spinning pencil in the girl's hand for a few seconds before he started feeling dizzy. Wait, what's going on? How did their roles suddenly switch? Wasn't he the psychologist? Yet, here he was, completely dominated by this young girl. Looking at the case file he had memorized long ago, Yi Jingwen smiled and said, "Lu Mion, can we talk like friends? Your family is really worried about you. They hope I can learn more about what happened. Can you tell me what went on during those 2 years when you were kidnapped?" Lu Mion's face showed a hint of rebelliousness and defiance. "I forgot." Yi Jingwen's brows furrowed slightly. "Do you remember the mysterious person who rescued you?" The girl calmly took a sip of her tea. "Nope, don't remember." Yi Jingwen, keeping his patience, continued trying to break through. "How do you feel about your parents and your sister?" The girl replied nonchalantly, "They're fine, I guess." Yi Jingwen felt a deep sense of frustration. This was already the 4th session, and each time, it was the same answers. This girl was definitely the second toughest person he had ever encountered. As for the first one? Well, everyone would find out soon enough. The clock struck 10, chiming twice. It was as if Lu Mion had completed a task. She put the pencil down on the table. "Session's over. I'm leaving now." She got up and headed for the door. Yi Jingwen hurried after her and blurted out, "I don't mean any harm. I just want to help you." Lu Mion turned her head, coughed lightly, and said, "Dr. Yi, don't you get tired pretending to care about your patients?" Yi Jingwen almost choked. This girl really knew how to shut people down. Turns out, Lu Mion and her twin sister, Lu Xinwan, were once caught up in a kidnapping case that shocked the world. The ransom demanded by the kidnappers was so outrageously high that many families faced an impossible choice. Their mother scraped together every penny she could, begging the kidnappers to release her children, but the greedy kidnappers said 5 million could only save one. When the kidnappers asked her which one to save, the decision became even harder. Lu Xinwan cried in fear, begging her mom to save her, while Lu Mion, who had her neck being choked, stayed calm and tried to comfort her, saying, "Don't be scared, we'll be okay." The kidnappers laughed like they were having a great time, watching their mom tremble. "How about you get more money and not have to worry about who to choose?" they taunted. Their mother hesitated for a few seconds, shaking, but then made a firm decision and shouted, "Save my younger daughter." Lu Mion's eyes widened in disbelief. When she saw her mother turn away, comforting her sister as she left, it finally hit her: she had been abandoned by her own family. She wiped her tears away. If she had been left behind, there was nothing to lose. In the end, 5 kids were abandoned by their families. Then, like a hero from nowhere, a mysterious person appeared, took down all the kidnappers, and saved them all. Nobody knew this person's real identity, just the code name, 13. It wasn't until 2 years after the kidnapping that Lu Mion returned to her family. No one knew where she had been or what she had gone through. Instead of offering her comfort and love, her parents and family treated her like some kind of freak and sent her to a therapist. After dealing with Yi Jingwen, Lu Mion, before leaving, shot a meaningful smile at the security camera on the wall. Sure enough, in the next room, a scholarly-looking man with gold-rimmed glasses was intently watching the monitor. The two of them seemed to exchange a silent look through the screen. Yi Jingwen sighed and tossed the case file on the coffee table, saying, "Seventh brother, you saw that, right? I couldn't get anything out of her. If you're hoping to find this mysterious person by talking to Lu Mion, it's not going to be that easy. But don't worry, even if she doesn't talk, we still have the other 4 victims. They were all rescued by this mysterious person. We'll get something out of them." Xiao Qimor adjusted his glasses and calmly replied, "It's useless. The person with the code name 13 has already wiped all traces of the other 4 victims' identities. There's no way to find them under their new identities." Yi Jingwen was stunned. "Seriously? That good?" Then what about Lu Mion? Xiao Qimor replied, it seems the person known as 13 didn't have time to erase her information before my people found her. Hearing this, Yi Jingwen's expression darkened a bit. So, how do you think Lu Mion is supposed to face her parents who once gave up on her? And what about her younger sister, who was kidnapped with her? Xiao Qimor stood up and walked over to the window. That's not for you to worry about. He gently opened the blinds and peeked down. Oh, and a little reminder, next time, don't watch her spin that pen. A cold sweat instantly broke out on Yi Jingwen's back. Wait, are you saying a psychologist, actually got hypnotized by a patient? What else did she notice? Xiao Qimor thought for a moment and replied, she's pretty interesting to watch. Yi Jingwen was puzzled, thinking, seriously? You've been watching the footage all this time and that's all you noticed? But what surprised Xiao Qimor was that at that very moment, Lu Mion was casually eating an ice cream and looking up at him, as if she knew someone was spying on her from the window. Xiao Qimor was taken aback. This girl really is something, huh? I mean, how biased can a mother be? Faced with 2 kidnapped daughters and only able to save one, she didn't even look back before choosing the seemingly well-behaved younger one and coldly abandoning the more rebellious older sister. When Lu Xinyuan got home from school, Fu Man immediately greeted her with a big smile, taking her backpack. Sweetheart, you're back. Dinner will be ready soon. I made all your favorite dishes. Lu Xinyuan proudly pulled out a certificate. Mom, look! I got first place in the art competition last semester. My teacher even wants to submit this series of drawings to a game company as character designs. Fu Man asked excitedly, really? Is it the game company that's won several international awards? Nuanuan, you're amazing. Not only are you doing great in school, but you also won first place in art. Our family's future depends on you. Fu Man looked at the certificate from all angles, feeling incredibly pleased. Their side of the family, the main branch, wasn't as well off as the second branch. The second branch lived in the main building and controlled the Lu family's financial resources, while they were stuck in the side wing. To get Xin Yuan back, they even had to take on a lot of debt. But now that her younger daughter was doing so well, maybe one day they could compete with the second branch. Lu Xinyuan said confidently, I definitely won't let you down. By the way, where's my sister? Is she back yet? Fu Man sighed at the mention of Lu Mion. Not yet. I wish your sister was even half as easy to deal with as you are. The psychologist just called and said they can't help her anymore, must be another one of your sister's crazy episodes. Lu Xinyuan seemed to remember something. Maybe I shouldn't show her this certificate. I don't want to upset her. Remember how she ruined my drawings when we were kids? She hasn't touched a paintbrush since. Feeling sorry for her, Fu Man gently patted her head. Lu Mion has been hard to get along with ever since she was little. She always lied and made excuses, denying she ever did anything wrong. We really can't count on her. Suddenly, a mocking voice came from the doorway. Sorry, did I interrupt your little mother-daughter bonding session? Lu Mion was leaning casually against the bookshelf, smirking. Lu Xinyuan's expression shifted immediately. She smiled and ran over to grab her sister's hand. Sis, you're back. Lu Mion glanced at her, quietly pulling her hand away. Drama queen, she muttered. Lu Xinyuan quickly switched to a hurt expression. Sis, do you really hate me that much? Fu Man immediately stepped in to shield her and scolded Lu Mion, how can you treat your sister like that? Lu Xinyuan's eyes filled with tears. Mom, don't scold her. I know she's never liked me. After what happened, it's understandable. But, sis, you don't blame me, do you? You shouldn't be mad at Mom either. She's always felt guilty. We took a 2-month trip to help her relax. Now she's working for Uncle to pay off our debts. It's hard work, and the pay is so low. Lu Mion was really tired of watching her sister put on an act. She walked over step by step, gently wiping the tears from Lu Xinyuan's eyes. Then, she lifted her chin with a casual hand and coldly spat out, "It's a shame you aren't an actress." Turning to her mother, she added, "And as for the debt? She took it on for you, not me. So, what does it have to do with me? You two can keep on with your mother-daughter love fest." With that, she turned and headed upstairs. Lucien Yuan was clearly thrown off by her words, but suddenly remembered something and decided to turn things around. This seemingly sweet and considerate girl was actually a two-faced manipulator. From childhood until now, she had secretly smeared her sister's reputation to win more of their mother's affection. As a result, everyone thought Lu Mion was just a rebellious delinquent. Trying to show off in front of her mother, Lucien Yuan deliberately said to Lu Mion, "Su Ju invited me over for dinner this Saturday. His grandfather is back. You're not upset, right? I remember when you were 16, you gave him a love letter. Sis, you're not in love with him, are you?" Lu Mion looked completely puzzled. "What love letter?" "That was an invitation from old man Su that I didn't want, so I gave it back to his mom." Their mother's anger flared up again. "Can you say a single honest word? If you're jealous of your sister, just admit it. Why would old man Su give you an invitation?" If anyone else heard this, they'd laugh their heads off. "How did I end up with such a liar for a daughter? You go around claiming you've memorized textbooks, don't need exams, and even saved a life. When you were younger, people thought you were just talking nonsense, but now you're an adult and still like this?" Lucien Yuan fanned the flames. "Mom, don't get mad. Maybe sis just wants to visit the Su family." Fu Man, looking like she was beyond disappointed, turned her face away. "What would she do there? She doesn't know the first thing about music, chess, calligraphy, or painting. She'd just embarrass herself." Lu Mion couldn't be bothered with them anymore and continued up the stairs. When she was younger, she had tried so hard to prove herself to them, only to be labeled as a lunatic. It was laughable. She slammed the door shut, blocking out the insults from outside. She pulled out her phone and saw several messages from her friend, Xin Fuling, praising her for making a tidy profit trading stocks over the past 2 days. Lu Mion simply replied with boring and ignored her. Suddenly, her phone dinged with a new email. It was an invitation from the Su family. Lu Mion hesitated for a few seconds, wondering if she should go or not. She changed clothes and was about to head out when Fu Man caught up to her, annoyed. "Where are you going?" she asked. Without turning around, Lu Mion replied, "Central Street." Fu Man glanced disdainfully at her slightly worn and short denim shorts. "I was just about to take Xin Yuan to the mall there to buy a dress. Might as well get you a couple of things too." At the mall, the mother and daughter browsed different brands, shopping around. Lu Mion didn't want to be involved, so she lazily followed behind them. At the jewelry counter on the first floor, she immediately spotted a hairpin set with a blue diamond, priced at 300,000 yuan. She was about to ask the clerk to take it out for a closer look when Fu Man suddenly grabbed her wrist and pulled her away. "We're here to buy clothes today. Don't bother looking at such expensive stuff." Lucien Yuan, playing the good daughter, lowered her eyes and said, "If sis likes it, I won't buy a dress. We can spend more on sis instead." Fu Man quickly acted out a scene of mother-daughter affection. "No way. You have to visit the Su family tomorrow. Even if we don't buy for your sister, we have to buy for you first." Lu Mion scoffed with a playful, mocking tone. "I don't want anything. I'm just browsing." She turned back toward the counter. "You two go shop. Don't bother getting me anything." Once they were far away, Lu Mion took out a black card from her bag. "Wrap up that hairpin for me," she told the clerk. "I'm keeping it for myself, so make it look nice." The clerk was thrilled. Those two customers just now clearly didn't have the confidence to be in this store. But this young lady, generous and confident, was truly a sweet yet cool girl. The prestigious Su family was throwing a welcome-back banquet for their old master, who had just returned from abroad, attracting all those looking to cozy up to them. Without seeing the guest of honor, everyone started talking about Su Ju, the 19-year-old from the Su family. rumor had it that he made a whopping 11 million yuan from just 200,000 yuan in the stock market a couple of days ago, a feat comparable to the legendary trader Mr. Xiao Qimo. Only the second branch of the Liu family, who held the real power, was invited to such events. Liu Xinyuan, looking sweet and delicate, shyly asked her uncle and aunt, "Do I look okay like this? I don't want to embarrass the Liu family." Liu Xingtang nodded approvingly. Winning such a big award for your art already brings enough pride to the Liu family. Besides you, who among the Su, Yi, or Pei families could compare? If Xin Yuan could marry into the Su family, our Liu family would surely rise even higher. When they arrived at the Su family estate, Liu Xingtang wasted no time introducing her to the head of the Su family, Su Sheng. Su Sheng, smiling kindly, looked at the girl and said, "I didn't expect Nuan to grow up so gracefully. Once the old master gives his approval, we can solidify this family connection." Liu Xingtang chimed in with a laugh, getting the old master's blessing would be the best. "She's my only niece, so you all better take good care of her." Liu Xinyuan blushed, "Uncle, I'm still young." Su Sheng quickly intervened. Su Ju went to the back garden to see Grandpa. "You should head over there too." Determined, Liu Xinyuan thought to herself that she was definitely going to become part of the Su family. Meanwhile, Lu Mion, who was wearing flip-flops, was casually wandering in the back garden. Soon, Su Ju noticed the unfamiliar girl and demanded, "Who are you? How did you get in here?" Lu Mion stopped in her tracks and countered, "Who are you?" Su Ju paused for a moment before stating, "I'm Su Ju, the young master of the Su family." Lu Mion simply nodded, "Oh, so you're old man Su's grandson. It's been years, I almost forgot you existed." She then ignored him and continued walking. Shocked at being dismissed, Su Ju chased after her, yelling, "Stop! That's my grandpa's study. You can't go in there." Lu Mion swiftly grabbed his wrist, flipped him around, and pinned him to the ground in one quick move. Just as Liu Xinyuan entered the back garden, she saw what was happening and started to cry out in alarm, "She's hitting him! Sis, let go of Su Ju!" But inside, she was secretly delighted. She thought, now uncle will definitely kick her out of the Liu family for this. Her shout brought a crowd rushing over. Liu Xingtang got there first and pulled Su Ju up from the ground. "Lu Mion, what are you doing? Apologize to Su Ju right now," he demanded. Liu Xinyuan cautiously suggested, "Maybe there's a misunderstanding? Sis, why don't you explain yourself to everyone?" But Liu Xingtang was furious. Misunderstanding? What misunderstanding could there be? Does she even have an invitation? Should she even be here? And now she's causing trouble. She wasn't invited, yet she had the nerve to show up and start something. The crowd that had gathered to watch the drama murmured among themselves, shooting odd looks at Lu Mion. So, this is the girl from the Liu family who got kidnapped for 2 years and only recently came back? Just look at her, she definitely seems like she's got some issues. Liu Xinyuan softly tried to persuade, "Maybe you should just go home for now?" But seeing the embarrassed look on Lu Mion's face made her feel quite satisfied. Even her uncle and aunt scolded Lu Mion angrily, "Why are you still here? Aren't you ashamed enough?" Suddenly, a strong voice rang out from a nearby building, "She's my guest. Who dares to kick her out?" Everyone turned to see who it was, and to their surprise, it was the old master of the Su family, Su Qinghe. The old master walked straight over to Lu Mion and declared to everyone, "I personally invited this girl. Who dares to say a word against her? Mion, come with me," he continued. His son quickly tried to stop him, "Dad, don't go, everyone's waiting for you." But the old master firmly refused, "I have other matters to attend to. You all enjoy the meal without me." Su Ju was feeling pretty annoyed. His grandpa wasn't worried about him at all and even sided with that troublesome girl. Liu Xinyuan gently tugged on his sleeve and tried to calm him down, "Don't be mad at my sister. She's just a bit impulsive and didn't mean it." But Su Ju wasn't having it. He thought, it's all that girl's fault, and now grandpa's definitely going to make her pay. Meanwhile, Liu Xinyuan was also feeling resentful. She had been hoping to meet old Master Su, but she didn't even get a chance to speak with him. Instead, Lu Mion, who didn't seem to care much about anything, became his special guest. At that moment, there was a Go board on the stone table in the pavilion with an unfinished game on it. Old Master Su poured Lu Mion a cup of tea and, instead of being angry about his grandson getting hurt, he apologized, saying Su Ju had a bad temper and that he'd scold him later that night. Lu Mion chuckled softly, "Your grandson is quite entertaining." Old Master Su sighed with regret, "I only learned about the kidnapping case later on. If I had known earlier, things would have been different." Lu Mion picked up a white Go piece and smiled, "I know you did your best. No need for a what if. Let's just say it was a life experience." Old Master Su then took a USB drive from his pocket and handed it to her. "This has the information I've collected over the past 2 years about the kidnapping case. I know you came here today for this." Lu Mion nodded, took the USB drive, and then placed a round talisman on the table. "I also came here today to return this to you." Old Master Su's eyes widened. "No, you keep it. If you ever run into someone from Jingjing, it might save your life." Lu Mion glanced at the USB drive in her hand and replied, "This is all I need." Meanwhile, Xiao Qimo and Yi Jingwen, catching the scent of blood, arrived in the back alley of the Su family's estate. They'd rushed over after getting an inside tip, but it seemed someone else had beaten them to the scene. All they found were chaotic footprints and bloodstains from a fierce battle. Yi Jingwen looked puzzled. Were those people targeting old Master Su? But who's the good Samaritan that stepped in? Xiao Qimo carefully examined the scene and deduced, based on the fight marks on the ground, this helpful person is about 170 centimeters tall, weighs around 42 kilograms, is quick on her feet, favors her right leg when attacking, and wears flip-flops. And it's a woman. Yi Jingwen swallowed hard. Who could this fierce woman be? Just as he was marveling, he saw a slim figure walk out of the Su family's back gate. "Lu Mion, what a coincidence," he called out, his expression mild. "Not really a coincidence," she replied calmly. "We were all invited." Yi Jingwen forced a dry smile. "Right, this is my friend, Xiao Qimo. Lu Mion, meet him." "Oh," Lu Mion responded with a nod. "So, it's you." Surprised, Yi Jingwen looked between them. "You two know each other?" Lu Mion gave a sly, carefree smile. "Dr. Yi, wasn't he the one behind the surveillance feed yesterday? Didn't he tell you some things?" Xiao Qimo's interest was piqued. "How did you figure that out? Just how skilled is this laid-back girl?" Lu Mion stared directly at him and began to explain slowly. "First, the doctor in the experiment room glanced at the surveillance 3 times yesterday, indicating someone was watching from behind the camera. Second, this is the first time we've met, yet your gaze isn't unfamiliar, you've seen me before. Third, Dr. Yi always defers to you, which suggests you're someone important. I also heard the Su family mention a notable Mr. Xiao would be attending this event, so I deduced that you're Xiao Qimo. Lastly, and most importantly, all of this was just me taking a wild guess, but both your reactions gave it away, proving I was right." Yi Jingwen was stunned. If they weren't on opposing sides, he'd have wanted to cheer for this girl on the spot. "She's that good." Xiao Qimo pulled a handkerchief out of his pocket and offered it. "Do you want to wipe your hands?" Lu Mion didn't hesitate, she took it and carefully wiped each finger. Xiao Qimo confidently remarked, "Then let me guess something too. You were the one who fought here earlier, right?" Lu Mion nodded without hesitation and then pointed to the fence. "I wanted to climb over it, but they were in the way." Li Jingwen's baby-faced expression twitched as he instantly imagined the scene. 2 hours ago, a wild and carefree girl tried to jump over the wall to get into the Su family's estate, only to find a row of assassins crouched at the base, blocking her path. Then, without missing a beat or a step, she knocked the whole group flat. She casually pointed behind her. "I tied them up in the back alley. If you need them, go ahead and pick them up." Yi Jingwen was in complete awe. She had unintentionally saved this whole event, and now he felt like a third wheel in front of these two powerhouses, like a forgotten dish no one ordered. Lu Mion twirled the handkerchief between her fingers. "You've probably got a ton of these, right? You won't miss one, will you?" She stuffed it into her pocket without a care. As she turned to leave, Xiao Qimor asked, "Aren't you going to stay for the banquet?" "Nah, too boring. You guys have fun." Meanwhile, inside the Su family banquet hall, the guests were still gossiping in groups, unaware of the disaster they just avoided. Was that really the younger daughter of the Lu family, whose sister had just returned after being kidnapped for 2 years? Old Mr. Su is such a good guy, trying to smooth things over. Judging by how her sister acts, I bet she's no different. Better steer clear of both of them from now on, just in case. But they didn't know that every word of their gossip had reached Xiao Qimor's ears. He paused just as he was about to step into the banquet hall. It didn't take long for people to notice him. Is that the heir of the Xiao family? Xiao Qimor scanned the room full of people eager to cozy up to him. So much for good breeding. As of now, the Xiao family is done doing business with you. We'll pay the penalty fees for the contracts. With that, he turned and walked out of the estate. The crowd was left in shock, clueless about what they had done to upset him. Yi Jingwen rushed to catch up. "Aren't you going to ask old Mr. Su about the kidnapping?" Xiao Qimor waved him off. "Nah, it's boring. You guys deal with it. Oh, and make sure to tell Mr. Su about the assassins in the back alley." Yi Jingwen scratched his head in confusion. Was he really leaving because the party was boring, or was it because people were trash-talking Lu Mion? Lu Xingtang was furious about Lu Mion's appearance. He had no intention of acknowledging his niece. It was just too embarrassing. Meanwhile, Lu Xinwan, after sending a quick message, sensibly tried to smooth things over. Maybe Grandpa Su is just protecting her because he feels bad for her. Just then, the sound of a cane hitting the floor echoed behind them. Suju was helping old Mr. Su walk over. Lu Xingtang quickly rushed forward to apologize. "I'm sorry, Mr. Su. Lu Mion's caused you trouble. I'll deal with her when I get back." Lu Xinwan faked an apologetic tone, adding, "Grandpa Su, don't be mad. I'll apologize on behalf of my sister." But old Mr. Su simply laughed heartily. "Oh, no need. Tell Mr. Lu to thank Lu Mion for me. If it weren't for her, the Su family would have been in big trouble today." The 3 members of the Lu family were stunned. Mr. Su didn't care about their confused expressions. His son, Su Sheng, helped him and asked, "Dad, how did you end up being targeted by assassins? You've always been on good terms with everyone." Old Mr. Su's sharp eyes gleamed as he replied, "Are you implying I'm so old and senile that I bring this on myself?" Su Sheng shook his head in fear. Ignoring the situation, old Mr. Su turned to his grandson, Su Ju, and said, "Lu Mion's going to your school soon. Look after her, okay?" Su Ju looked annoyed, but before he could say anything, his father interrupted with a sigh. "You're not trying to set Su Ju up with Lu Mion, are you? That girl isn't a good match for our Ju. Her sister, Lu Xinwan, would be much better." Old Mr. Su shot him a glare. "Nonsense. It's our family that doesn't deserve Lu Mion." Su Ju grumbled, but didn't take it seriously. Meanwhile, Lu Mion left the Su family estate, leisurely making her way back. Xiao Qimor drove up beside her and rolled down the window. "Miss Lu, need a ride?" Without even looking up, Lu Mion lazily replied, "No need." Xiao Qimor chuckled. This girl is so stubborn. He drove a little ahead, then made a sudden sharp turn to block her path, opening the passenger door. "Oops, my bad. Slipped." Lu Mion didn't even react to his childish antics, not even with a punctuation mark. Since he was being so persistent, Lu Mion figured there was no need to be overly dramatic, so she just slid into the passenger seat. After buckling her seatbelt, she smirked mischievously. "Are you sure it's safe riding in your car?" Xiao Qimor seemed to be in a good mood. "Relax, I'm a smooth driver." Lu Mion lazily pulled out her phone and started messing with it. "All right then, I'll leave it to you, driver Xiao. Xiao Qimor glanced at her and casually asked, the hitmen in the alley weren't exactly amateurs. How do you handle it? A flicker of caution flashed in Lu Mion's eyes. Just picked up a bit of self-defense. Any problem with that? Xiao Qimor nodded in understanding. He knew that when she was kidnapped years ago, she was only 17, and surviving for 2 years under the brutal hands of those criminals was unimaginable to most. After a moment of silence, he softly asked, "Can you tell me what you went through?" Surprisingly, Xiao Qimor, who rarely offered anyone a ride home, found that the girl had fallen asleep. She seemed to be sleeping soundly. Was the music too boring, or was his conversation that dull? Amused and slightly frustrated, Xiao Qimor adjusted the music and air conditioning without thinking. Soon, the sleek black car pulled up in front of the Lu family home. He looked over at her, wondering whether he should wake her up or carry her inside. Just as he raised his hand, before he could even touch her, she suddenly grabbed his wrist with surprising force. Startled, she opened her eyes and mumbled, "Don't touch me." Xiao Qimor chuckled to himself. What a little trickster. Unfazed, she leaned forward, moving closer. Her fluttering eyelashes caught his eye, and he couldn't help but gulp, his voice lowering as he whispered in her ear, "Does it hurt?" Lu Mion froze for a second but quickly tuned out his attempts to charm him. She released his hand, casually tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear, revealing a small red mole on the cartilage. Xiao Qimor was momentarily stunned. It was as if he, the master of flirting, had just been outplayed. That tiny red mole triggered a strong urge in him, to conquer her. Lu Mion smiled triumphantly as she saw how flustered he was. "Your self-control is pretty weak," she teased before unbuckling her seatbelt and lazily getting out of the car, not even looking back. Xiao Qimor chuckled as he drove away. "Guess we'll meet again soon." As soon as Lu Mion pulled out her keys and opened the door, a rough force yanked her inside. Startled, she almost threw a punch until she realized it was her mom. Fu Man's temper flared up instantly. "Where have you been today? Did you go to the Su family to cause trouble? You just can't stand seeing your sister do well, can you?" Lu Mion let out a cold laugh. "Wow, word travels fast, huh?" Fu Man pulled out her phone and showed her a message. "Who do you think you're mocking? Nuanuan told me everything, but look at what your sister had to say. Why are you always so harsh with her?" Lu Mion glanced at the message from her dear sister. As expected, still a master at playing the victim. Since she'd never been able to measure up to Lucien Nuan growing up, Lu Mion brushed past the phone and headed upstairs. Fu Man, in a tone full of disappointment, kept scolding her. "Look at yourself, and then look at Xin Nuan. What part of you is even close to her level? Of course, I favor her. What do you have to feel sorry for? I don't expect much from you, just don't drag your sister down. She's the pride of the family. Can you at least focus on school and stop causing trouble?" Lu Mion ignored her nagging, pulled out her phone, and sent a message, "I get it now, right? Coming back was a mistake. You going to school Monday? Miss you." Fu Man saw her texting and got even angrier. "I'm still talking, and you're just going to ignore me and play on your phone." Lu Mion gave her a cold look. "In your eyes, I'll never be as good as Lucien Nuan. You think me coming back would change anything? You never wanted me back in the first place. So don't bother pretending to care, just act like I never returned." Right after, Lu Mion sent a message to her sidekick, Ling, "Buy this stock today." Ling executed the trade right away and posted the news in their group chat. The second the message dropped, the chat exploded with all kinds of praise. Suju saw the message and immediately bought $500,000 worth. Afterward, he leaned back, hands behind his head, a mysterious smile on his face. He was curious to see if this so-called stock market genius could keep it up every time. A few days later, school started again. One of his close friends came over to say hi and noticed he was still studying the stock market. Suju, watching the stock surge in value, couldn't help but grin. We could sell now and make a lot, but the boss says to wait a bit longer. I hope she doesn't let us down. Suddenly, the sound of light footsteps came from behind them. Lu Xinyuan approached with a smile. How's your grandpa doing lately, Suju? His friend stood up quickly with a teasing grin. Wow, Suju, you've got it all, success in both work and love. I'll leave you two lovebirds alone. Lu Xinyuan's face turned red. They're just making stuff up. Next time, I'll teach them a lesson if they keep talking like that. Suju seemed unfazed. They're just joking. Don't worry about it. Inwardly, Lu Xinyuan was thrilled. Did he just admit it? Suddenly, everyone started whispering. Is that the new transfer student? She looks like she walked straight out of a manga, so pretty, cool, and fierce. Lu Xinyuan turned around and saw Lu Mian walk in with a book tucked under her arm, looking effortlessly cool. Her eyebrows furrowed in annoyance. She actually showed up. She better not try to talk to me. I don't want anyone knowing I have such an embarrassing sister, and I definitely don't want her stealing the spotlight. She quickly put on a smile and spoke first. Can I help you with something? Lu Mian glanced at her dramatic expression and pointed to Suju sitting next to her. I'm here for him, not you. Lu Xinyuan felt a bit awkward for a moment. Lu Mian continued, your grandpa said he can't reach you. He asked me to tell you he'll pick you up tonight for a company event at the usual spot. Suju didn't even look up as he lazily responded. He knew Lu Mian wouldn't care about his spoiled attitude and just walked straight to a seat in the back. Lu Xinyuan, trying to act all sweet, said, your grandpa is so nice to you. I hope I'll get the chance to see him again sometime. Suju, still looking totally uninterested, replied, we'll see. Lu Mian pulled a book called The Heartbreaker from her bag and started reading when a cheerful voice suddenly chimed from above her. Lu Mian, you're back. It was Sui Yuan, her short boyish haircut making her instantly recognizable. Seeing her made Lu Mian smile, and the two happily started chatting. Lu Xinyuan sneakily glanced back, surprised to see that student being so close to Lu Mian. A trace of jealousy flashed in her eyes. Fine, don't blame me for what's coming, she thought bitterly. You are, after all, my sister's best friend. Lu Mian had only wanted to check out the newly renovated apartment across from the school, but she ended up running into two familiar faces. Yi Jingwen greeted her with a playful grin. Hey Mian, what are you doing here? Are you stalking us or something? Standing next to him, Xiao Qimor stayed silent, but Lu Mian shot him a quick glance and replied, in your dreams. Yi Jingwen, clearly embarrassed, asked, wait, does she hate me now? Xiao Qimor calmly advised him, next time, don't go around calling girls by cutesy nicknames. They won't like it. Yi Jingwen watched her walk away and muttered to himself, how do you even know if she's mad? Isn't this just how Lu Mian always is? But, unexpectedly, the three of them ended up in the same apartment building. As they walked, Yi Jingwen whispered to Xiao Qimor, do you think she really is stalking us? Just then, the elevator dinged, and a cool voice floated over, what exactly about you would be worth stalking? Yi Jingwen scoffed, why's it gotta be me? Why not us? And why am I not worth stalking? Xiao Qimor chuckled softly, and the three of them got into the elevator one after the other. Both Yi Jingwen and Lu Mian reached out to press the button for the 8th floor at the same time. They looked at each other, momentarily stunned, before Lu Mian pulled her hand back and said, you go ahead. After that, no one said a word as they quietly waited for the elevator to reach their floor. Yi Jingwen glanced around, feeling like a total third wheel. When they reached the 8th floor, Xiao Qimor was the first to step out of the elevator. He slightly turned his head toward Lu Mian and asked, wanna come hang out at my place? It was surprising to see the usually aloof Xiao Qimor invite a girl to his apartment. Yi Jingwen quickly flashed a welcoming smile, adding, yeah, Mian, come in. We're all friends here. Under their expectant gazes, Lu Mian actually started to walk in their direction. But just as the two of them were about to follow, they saw her turn in the opposite direction. Yi Jinggwen quickly called after her, "Hey, Mion, it's this way." But before he could finish his sentence, they heard the sound of a door unlocking behind them. Lu Mion gave them a look that said, "Don't get ahead of yourselves," and added, "Oh, so we're neighbors, huh?" Xiao Qimor stared at her, thinking this girl was pretty interesting. Meanwhile, Yi Jinggwen was left speechless by her sarcastic tone. "Hey, Qimor," Yi Jinggwen said as they entered the apartment, "is the place next door really owned by the Lu family? Apartments here aren't cheap, you know. If they had this kind of money, they wouldn't have given up on Lu Mion during that kidnapping incident, right?" He lazily sprawled out on the couch and continued, "Since we're living so close now, I'll be able to see Mion all the time. Makes my job as her therapist easier." Xiao Qimor shot him an annoyed look. "Do you even have any free time? Any leads on the mystery guy yet?" Yi Jinggwen groaned dramatically. "Why is he always mad at me?" So, while Xiao Qimor was taking a shower, Yi Jinggwen decided to make herself useful and whipped up a delicious feast. Xiao Qimor had just gotten out of the shower when the doorbell rang. He wasn't planning to answer, but then he thought, who else would come at this time? He walked over to the door and opened it, only to find the rebellious short-haired girl leaning casually against the doorframe, staring right at him with a smirk. "What's up?" he asked. When a freshly showered, suave guy meets a straightforward, no-nonsense girl, what could happen? Xiao Qimor thought his looks might fluster her a little, but to his surprise, Lu Mion's gaze stayed clear and steady. "Hey, can I borrow a pair of chopsticks?" Xiao Qimor thought he must have misheard her, but when he saw Lu Mion's expression remain totally neutral, he calmed himself down. "Guess she's really not into me at all," he thought, before casually turning and walking into the apartment. "Hold on, why don't you come in and sit for a bit?" he offered. But Lu Mion stayed put at the door, glancing around at his place, which was decked out in cool black, white, and grey tones. The vibe felt a bit cold and unsettling. A moment later, Xiao Qimor came back with a pair of wooden chopsticks. Lu Mion thanked him sincerely and was just about to take them, but Xiao Qimor held onto the chopsticks tightly, locking eyes with her. Out of nowhere, he asked, "Do you know where the mystery person is?" Lu Mion blinked, a bit confused. "What are you talking about?" Xiao Qimor stepped closer and whispered in her ear, "The person who saved you, the one with the code name 13. Lu Mion gently pushed him back with a single finger. "What does this mystery person have to do with me?" she said, before turning around and heading back to her apartment. Xiao Qimor muttered under his breath, "What a little heartless thing." Still, her face gave away nothing. Could she really not know anything about the mystery person's whereabouts? Would that person ever get in touch with her again? Just then, Yi Jinggwen came barreling out of the kitchen. "Qimor, we only have 2 pairs of chopsticks, and you just gave one to Lu Mion. How are we supposed to eat?" Xiao Qimor gave him a quick glance, then calmly sat back down and picked up the last pair of chopsticks for himself, digging into the meal without a care. Yi Jinggwen stared at him in disbelief. "Wow, you're such a jerk." He watched Xiao Qimor neatly lined up all the fish bones he picked out, shaking his head. Total control freak, as usual, he thought, resting his chin on his hands. "So, Qimor, what's our plan when it comes to Lu Mion?" Xiao Qimor, still eating slowly, asked, "Have you ever thought about why she asked me to borrow a pair of chopsticks?" Yi Jinggwen immediately perked up. "Wait, are you saying chopsticks are like some kind of symbol of forever together, or something?" Was she trying to drop a hint? Xiao Qimor raised an eyebrow, a hint of amusement in his expression. "That's an interesting theory," he said. "Makes me want to investigate her more. Who would have thought a sweet, innocent girl could have such a dark side?" Meanwhile, Sui Yuan, who seemed pretty close with Lu Mion, was tricked by Lucian Yuan, who said that the teacher wanted to meet her, pushing her right into the clutches of some thugs. The other students didn't even notice Sui Yuan was missing until they were arranging their desks. As soon as Lu Mion entered the classroom, she sensed something was off. Without wasting a second, she pulled out her phone and tapped on it a few times. What looked like an ordinary phone instantly transformed into a tiny computer. Her fingers flew across the projected keyboard. Eyes glued to the screen, Lu Mion didn't blink. Lu Xinyuan casually walked by, curious about what she was doing with such a high-tech gadget. 3 minutes later, the system tracked Sui Yuan to Yongxing Bar. She was helplessly kneeling on the ground, surrounded by a bunch of thugs. Without a second thought, Lu Mion grabbed her phone and sprinted out the door. At the same time, Yi Jingwen, sipping his tea, suddenly jolted up, his eyes wide. Excitedly, he woke up Xiao Qimo, who was napping on the couch. "I just picked up a signal from the mysterious person, code name 13. It was faint, but it definitely flashed." Xiao Qimo narrowed his eyes. "Where?" Yi Jingwen looked at him with a weird expression. "It's coming from your neighborhood." Xiao Qimo stood up thoughtfully, grabbed his coat, adjusted his glasses, and said, "Let's go." By now, Lu Mion was speeding toward Yongxing Bar on her sleek black motorcycle. She found Sui Yuan in a dark alley near the bar. The moment Lu Mion took off her helmet, her eyes narrowed. The thugs, who had been planning something shady, perked up when they saw her. "Whoa, look at this chick. Guess we're in for a cute little Lolita show today." Lu Mion casually tossed her helmet, and it landed perfectly on her bike's side mirror. Step by step, she walked toward Sui Yuan, who was already terrified, collapsed on the ground. Sui Yuan stared at her like she was a goddess descending from the sky. Lu Mion crouched down, wiped the tears from her face, and gently reassured her, "Don't be afraid." Yi Jingwen was driving Xiao Qimo towards his place when he suddenly noticed Lu Mion in a nearby alley, squaring off with a group of thugs. Shocked, he blurted out, "Isn't that Lu Mion? What's she doing there?" From the back seat, Xiao Qimo's voice was cold and firm, "Stop the car." Yi Jingwen hesitated. "Weren't we supposed to be looking for that mysterious person? Why are we stopping for Lu Mion?" Xiao Qimo's irritation was clear. "Do you need me to ask you again?" Yi Jingwen quickly killed the engine, and as they got out, they saw Lu Mion calmly pulled out some earbuds, put them on Sui Yuan, and helped her stand. The thugs, completely unaware of the danger they were in, laughed mockingly. "What, a little girl wants to fight us? Come on, let's see what you've got." Before they could finish their sentence, Lu Mion moved, one kick to the head, another to the groin, and a final one to the gut. The thug screams echoed through the alley. Lu Mion muttered under her breath, "Pathetic." She took off her jacket, draped it over Sui Yuan, and guided her out of the alley. As they stepped out, they spotted Xiao Qimo and Yi Jingwen standing at the entrance. Casually, as if it were nothing, Lu Mion nodded in greeting, having just taken down 3 kidnappers like it was no big deal. Yi Jingwen's legs trembled. "Were you seriously the one who just wiped the floor with those thugs? You act like nothing happened." Xiao Qimo spoke softly, "Your friend is hurt. I've got some medicine at my place, you should take him there." Lu Mion nodded, helping Sui Yuan into his car. Xiao Qimo, meanwhile, couldn't take his eyes off her. Not realizing the tension, Yi Jingwen whispered, "Is he her boyfriend?" Xiao Qimo shot him a cold glance, making him dive back into the driver's seat. Lu Mion casually tossed her helmet to Xiao Qimo. "I'm staying with her. You can take my bike, just ride it back for me." Yi Jingwen floored the gas pedal, speeding off, excited. "I never thought I'd see the day someone bossed around Lord Qimo." Xiao Qimo held the helmet, his lips curling into a slight smile. "She's getting more interesting by the day."